We're joined now a couple minutes early by the driver of the number 88 AXALTA Chevrolet, Dale Earnhardt Jr. You're making your 600 start in the NASCAR Monster Energy Series this weekend. Talk a little bit about that and then your expectations heading into the weekend.
Yeah, 600 just doesn't seem like a lot till you kind of look at the statistics on paper. Been reading some of the things on social media about how many starts we have versus other drivers in the series and so forth. So pretty cool. I go back to the same feeling that I had when I started. I just wanted to drive. I wanted to race cars for a living. I wanted to do it well enough to be able to afford to make a living doing it. I didn't have vision or assume that I was going to make all the money and success that we've made, but all I really wanted to do was do it long enough so I didn't have to get a real job. I mean that as sincere as I can. So I'm real thrilled that I've had the opportunity to stay around and drive for some really, really great teams, some really awesome owners. Worked with a lot of amazing crew chiefs and crew members. We've got a really great group of guys that we race with in this current situation. We're having so much fun at the racetrack and really enjoy working with Greg. So I feel fortunate and lucky and hope to have good success this weekend. I really like Fontana, and I wish that we can have a good weekend is all. We're kind of been struggling a little bit to put together a good race this year, and we qualified well last week but didn't run as well as we wanted to. We had a little issue with the brakes and stuff like that, but those things are going to happen. We'll keep processing what we're learning and keep showing up every week and put it together eventually. But I really, really like this racetrack. Obviously, you're running all over the racetrack, a lot of different grooves. That makes it a lot of fun as a driver. So looking forward to some fun this weekend and hopefully a good result.
We'll open it up to questions now. We'll start here with Kelly and then go to Claire and Bob.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Dale, 600 starts. First, what are some things that you like to think about maybe from your career, maybe some fun things you like to talk about with your buddies? And second, when you meet fans, what do they normally like to come up and say? Do they say, hey, I remember this, or I met you here? Yeah,
they talk about wins. I was at Daytona when you won in 04. I was at Daytona when you won in 14. I was at the All-Star race when you won, or I've watched every race you ran. You hear really, they remember the moments on the track more than anything. And I do the same thing. I think back about the wins and maybe not even the wins. Some races are really fun and satisfactory, but you were the only one that remember them because you didn't, you ran third or fifth or something like that, and they're kind of obscure in most people's minds. But I think about running the All-Star race as a rookie, just how fortunate we were to do that. Winning the Daytona 500 twice. I didn't know that I would even win it once, and everything that's happened. The list goes on and on. So just been I can't. I would have never thought it would have been as good as it's been or as fun as it's been along the way, and made so many good friends. I think about when as you get older, you start to understand how you prioritize the things that are most important to you about the sport, and the camaraderie and the friendships that I've made kind of started down the list, and as I've gotten older, that's crept up the list, and if it's not number one, I don't know what is. So it's all the people in the garage, the industry, the press, the friends that you make. That probably is what you'll miss the most once you're done driving, is the people. You're going to miss being around all those folks. Driving cars and the adrenaline and all that is great and a lot of fun. But, man, the friends that you make here, that's something we talk about too. It's just the people we all have in common friendships with.
We're going to go to Claire and then Bob, work our way around this way.
Claire Belang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. It's fun to follow you on Twitter and on your podcast and kind of get your opinion, and you've been real free with that, and it's good to follow. I'd love to have a discussion here about your view on penalizing or not penalizing on the track. Drivers, should they settle it for themselves out on the racetrack, and some of your ideas?
Yeah. Okay, I don't like, I'm going to be a bit of a hypocrite because I've done a lot of these things. I don't think, taking your car and running into somebody is the way to go. In between the flags, I guess it's okay. If you dump a guy for a win, that's just that's your choice. And I think in that situation, you just you get handled by the court of public opinion, and otherwise, everything in between the flags is free game. But once the race is over, you'd prefer not to have any shenanigans going on. But I myself have been guilty of that in the past. It's not, and I don't, if it's going to happen down the road, and that's not, I don't think we need to go out of our way to penalize Austin to send a message to him or anyone else. But to do nothing kind of bothered me a little bit. To do nothing at all, I'm serious. I would have sent him on a winter circle appearance somewhere. None of the drivers like doing those, and we complain about it to NASCAR all the time, having to go to these tracks out of market and do these appearances. Now, when we go do them, we do have fun, but drivers are spoiled, and we don't like to do that stuff. So I would sign him up for an out-of-market appearance to promote the next Phoenix race in the fall. And I'd get him, that the children's NASCAR Children's Charity can never have enough donations, so he could write a small check to them and be done with it. It doesn't really have to be anything that's harmful really to Austin. It's that what message do you send to all these guys that are racing at all the local tracks around the country? Are you sending the message that it's okay for them to drive into each other's door after the race is over with? So that's all I worry about. I'm not worried. I know Austin knows right from wrong. It's not about trying to teach him a lesson. It's really, what are we trying to tell everyone else, all the other drivers? And I know NASCAR takes these guys into the haulers, and they do have these conversations with them, and they do tell them what they expect in the future, but no one else is privy to that conversation. Not that I need to be in that conversation, but that's not sending the message to anyone, because we don't know what the message is, right? So I just wish that, we don't want, I got guys racing late models. I got this young kid, and I got Josh, and we've ran cars in all kinds of different series, trucks, and all that stuff, and you just want those guys to know kind of what the etiquette is out there. Whether they choose to follow it is another thing, but it's up to NASCAR to show them what is expected, and I think that the ball was kind of dropped on this particular situation. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I really, I've talked to Austin a lot this week. Talked to him last night, for a matter of fact. I talked to O'Donnell a little bit. And I understand that they want personalities. They want guys to be colorful. I agree with that. I think we have been. You listen to the Radioactive. I mean, we all talk crap about each other all race long. We just as annoyed as can be over everything going on around us, and like Blaney. I mean, we and him are pretty good friends, and we just annoyed as hell at each other sometimes on the track. So there's plenty going on out there. I don't think that would deter drama and any color in the sport. I think to do nothing is just such a missed opportunity, I think, and you don't have to do anything crazy. Just a couple $1,000s and just something, just enough to say to these guys that are watching on Sunday that race on Saturday night and Friday night that this is not really what we want to see going forward. That's all.
When should they settle it amongst themselves on the track?
In between the flags, man. Yeah, when they, if he wants to, you got, and I was one that. And so people were going to say, well, the Matt Kenseth deal was in between the flags. That was during the race. And I agree with NASCAR that you have to handle things differently. I wasn't quite sure about that, so I went and talked to O'Donnell, and he explained to me, like in other sports, there's flagrant fouls, and there's intentional fouls, and there's little 5-yard penalties and 15-yard penalties. There's holding and face mask calls. So I understand the variance and there needing to be a different degree of punishment. For sure, and it's up to NASCAR to have the understanding to know how to manage those punishments and how to judge what needs to be done in those situations. So, but anything in between the flags is fair game. I mean, that's always been the case everywhere I've ever raced. You don't always like it. Some guy's gonna race dirty all the time. There's dirty players in football. There's dirty guys in boxing that are gonna hit you behind the head and rabbit punch you and hit you in the clinch. I mean, there's just people that are like that, and that's okay as long as it's in between the flags.
We'll go to Bob and then Wolfgang.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. Before season started, you said you'd take a couple of months to decide when you'd start negotiating with Rick. Have you started that process? Have you felt good enough to start that process, and has it started?
It's all been a few races, but I feel really good, and we have had some discussions about planning to get together. So it's not something I put on the shelf for sure. So we're getting closer and closer. I feel good and made some good adjustments in my car in the off season. I had some meetings with NASCAR Safety about things I could do better for myself and make my car safer. I'm mad that I didn't think about doing that sooner, but I just, it takes something to to make you proactive. It seems sometimes you got to get a kick in the butt to do something. But so I've done some things that I really think have gave me a lot of confidence in the car and in my ability to continue to race. And so, yeah, I'm not in any hurry to sit down and have those discussions, but we have been chit-chatting a little bit about when, that we need to go ahead and start heading in that direction.
We'll go to Wolfgang, then over to Kathy, and then back to Brant.
Wolfgang Monser from German Rennsport Press Agency. Hi, Dale.
Yes,
I
sir.
was told earlier in the press box, very exciting message that your team will have a very famous guest here on Sunday, Jenson Button, the ex-Formula One McLaren driver.
That's news to me.
Yeah. I just want to ask if you talk.
Is he going to sit on the pit box? Because Ray Hall's coming too.
Okay.
I ain't got but so many seats.
Now, I just want to know, when you have a chance to talk to Button, will you convince him to make the move to NASCAR?
I assume everybody wants to move to NASCAR, right? I don't think I'd have to convince him. There's only a few opportunities out there, and sponsor money is hard to find. So anybody wanting to drive in the Cup Series is going to have to find $20-30 million to do it. We could daydream all day long. I would have loved to have seen, what Michael Schumacher would have thought about our cars, and so it would have been awesome if he had had the opportunity to drive a stock car, just so he could, just to hear what his thoughts were, being the legend that he is. Anytime the F1 guys, or anybody for that matter, the IndyCar guys, it's such a different discipline driving F1 to stock cars. Anytime they get in our sport, it's great to hear their take on it and what they really think about it. So any of the guys want to come, get an opportunity to run some laps, it'd be fun to hear what they have to say. Our car, yes, and did it successfully. We miss him. He was a lot of fun to have around. Me and him, boy, the fun we had at Driver's Intro. Hanging out with all my besties at Driver Intro. No one? That was a dig at Letarte. I miss seeing Montoya, man. He was always nice to me and always was an approachable guy.
Kathy Brown, pitting outside the box. Congratulations on making your 600th start. If you could go back in time to your very first race, what would be the one thing that Dale Jr. now would tell Dale Jr. then?
Oh, well, my first Cup race, we ran, I would, I don't know, I was really nervous. I remember sitting on the starting grid, or sitting on in the qualifying for the race, and telling Tony Jr. that I'd switch with him for $1 million. I'd switch with him so he could do this instead of me, because I was scared to death. But they had made such a big deal about that whole thing. I mean, I don't even remember what they had some kind of, they called it something, Countdown to E-Day or some mess. I forget what it was, but Budweiser made this big promotion about it, and it was so much pressure, and I was so nervous. We did okay in the race. I think we finished 16th or something like that. But I don't, I was overwhelmed with the weight of the situation and how much attention it was getting, and it made it really hard to kind of soak in and enjoy, I guess. But we just wanted to do so good and not fail, and I don't know what I could tell myself that would have made much of a difference in how I felt. I don't think I could have calmed myself any more than with any kind of advice. It'd have been difficult to make any difference. I guess it was so crazy, but it was fun. It was a wild time.
Let's go to Holly, then Brant, then we'll come up front here.
Hey Dale, Holly Kane with NASCAR.com. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about stage racing, what you think of it, how involved you get into that whole thing, your thoughts on that.
Well, so far my experience has been I've been sort of in the backside of the top 10 for a few of these stages, and the intensity really ramps up when your crew chief or your spotter's like, you got like 15 laps to go in this stage. You're like, oh man, I got to hang on to this 1 point. And you really get nervous. You're sitting there riding along, thinking about your car, having fun, driving along, and then they tell you that, and you're thinking, man, I don't want to give up this point. All of a sudden, for whatever reason, this 1 point is so valuable. So that's good. I think that was their intent, to really get the drivers up on their toes, and it definitely has us on our toes as those laps wind down toward the end of each of those stages. On the other side of that, when you're 15th, 18th, and the stage is winding down, you're maybe not as intense as I had been in the past at that particular part of the race. Yeah, you're kind of like, well, the stage's wrapping up. We're getting ready to wrap this up. We're going to start a new stage, okay. And you're just chilling, till that gets done. Without, as long as you don't have any visual opportunity to try to get a point, it kind of makes you, reel it in a little bit and save a little bit. Maybe get ready for that next stage and start thinking about, all right, how can we actually put ourselves in position to get some points here for that next opportunity? Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. It's I don't know exactly what their intent was and what they're trying to accomplish, but it does bring in some intensity that wasn't there in the past. Especially if you're kind of in that 8th, 9th, 10th spot, coming down those last few laps, you're like, man, I don't want to give up any points. I really want these points. And that was never the case before. We never had points to race for, so we just kind of were, not cruising, but we're just kind of getting through the day, hoping to be there at the end to get the points. And now we're having to worry about points throughout the day.
We'll go to Brant, then up front here.
Brant James, USA Today Sports. There had been some reporting this week that if restrictor plates could be coming to the Brickyard 400 if it works well in the Xfinity race as a standout in that form, how do you think it would play there?
I don't know how it's going to look or work out, but I'm up for whatever. That race is really suffering as far as the show and how entertaining I think it is to watch. I don't really know what the answer is to make it more exciting, but this is a great opportunity to find out if this is a direction to go. And I think I'm all for it. And I like the idea of trying it in the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series or what have you, whatever track it's at, to try it in that feeder series. That's an opportunity to see if we can get it right without ruining anything for the Cup guys. Hopefully, I think NASCAR watches the Indy 500 and they see those guys drafting and passing, and they have to, they're competitive and they have to try to put on that type of show, if not better, at that racetrack. It's not good in conversation to have the IndyCar race be more exciting to watch than the NASCAR race there. That's just business. So I think it's great for them to be aggressive. We tried something last year in the Cup cars with the big spoilers and all that drag. Didn't work, but I think it's I'm good with it. I really think it's easy to say, hey man, let's go back to IRP for the Xfinity guys. How do you fix a Cup race? You want to fix a Cup race too. You want to try to improve Cup racing there if you can. We'd love to keep Indy or the Xfinity at Indy if we can. if we can make that exciting, that's where they belong. It's great for our company. It's great for us as owners to have that big marquee event. And it's a race that's easier to sell than maybe a Road America or something like that. So for sponsors, it's a big deal. So we want to be there. I would love to race at IRP. I'd love to see a race at IRP, but it's good for our owners to be in Indy. And if we can make that work, that's great. So I'm open to trying anything.
Are there other Cup tracks where plates would be worth a try?
That's a good question. You know, I think it's a good question. I don't know that that'd be popular at every other track, but since Indy's kind of a odd configuration and the racing has suffered there, I think that it's worth an attempt to see if it'll be an improvement. I don't think that we have a race that kind of stands out as an issue like Indy does as far as the show and how entertaining the race is. And I think, you know, if you looked at other tracks, you know, Michigan and those things come to mind, but the racing there is good, and it's going to just keep getting better as the track ages. It's just, the configuration is really a thorn in the side of Indy for our cars. You know, there's not ever going to be a second groove for us there. I mean, the Indy cars really don't run through the corners side by side on a regular basis, but the way their cars work aerodynamically, they're able to draft and pass, and it's a great show. It's a really great show. So we need to figure out how to make that happen for our cars. The straightaways are long enough. We just got to figure out how to get our cars to where we can really get the slingshot runs. And I think what they learn in that process, if they can accomplish that, would lend itself to other racetracks, especially at Daytona and Talladega, man. If we could bring a slingshot back to where one guy can pull out and pass someone on their own, what a race that would be. You know, we used to, you know, had quite a bit of that in the 80s where guys were just flying by each other every time they went down the back straightaway. Somebody else was taking the lead. It'd be awesome to have that again.
We'll go right up front to finish up.
Okay, Presto Cars and Competition. Dale, you went from a really hot track at Phoenix last week. That's a road course to the 2-mile oval here. Very wide here, lots of seams here. How do you anticipate you'll do the stage racing on this track?
I don't think that the stages are going to dictate a different strategy than we've had here in the past. The tires are going to be so critical. You're going to get 4 tires every opportunity you can. So when the caution comes out, you know, you're not going to have guys trying to trick the system with the new stages. You'll want to come down and get your tires and take advantage of, you know, having new tires every opportunity. Yeah, it's nice that the temperature is going to be more tolerable this weekend. Last week was pretty hot, but you know, we made the most of it, and it wasn't too bad. I felt great after the race.
And the tire performance here, do you think?
I love it. I mean, it's a rough, really rough. Like, it's got a lot more bumps than it's had in the past. Wore out surface, the tires fall off. That's what the drivers love. I think the drivers are really looking forward to this race.
Dale, good luck this weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We'll continue our driver and media availabilities in advance of the 21st Annual Auto Club 400. We're joined now by the driver of the number 21 Motorcraft Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center Ford, Ryan Blaney. Ryan, welcome. Last week, you started second. The week before that, you started third. Following that trend there, are we going to see the pole position today?
Hope so. I thought our car had really good speed off the bat in race trim and kind of faded a little bit. And our qualifying trim stuff wasn't really where we wanted it to be. But, you know, the good thing about having 4 hours before we qualify, you can sit down and really diagnose what you need and try to get that better. So I know our team has been working hard, and really all 3 cars have been really fast in qualifying trim. So hopefully we can get that first pole today. So
Excellent. We'll open it up to questions now. We're going to start with Kelly and then go to Wolfgang.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Ryan, a few races into the season, something that stood out is how fast not only you and Penske have been, but all the Fords seem to really be starting off strong, have speed. Is there something different that's been going on this year? Is it a different feel? Is it just working closer together? What's been the difference so far that it's so widespread?
I think it's just hard work in the off season. You know, it's you know, like you said, it's not only the Wood Brothers team or the Penske group, but Stewart Haas cars have been really fast as well, and the Roush cars are showing some speed as well. So, you know, Ford has always worked very closely together with all the teams, and now I think the teams are starting to work a little bit more together to try to share information. And you know, when we get 1-4 to victory lane, it benefits everybody, no matter what team you're on. But I think it's just hard work in the offseason from the motor department at Roush Yates to the OEMs at Ford, improving what we need on the body side, and it's just a lot of hard work in the offseason. So it's nice to be on top of things. To start off, you never want to be playing catch up. So it's nice to be out. I wouldn't say ahead right now. There's a lot of fast teams out there, but I definitely think we're on the right path for sure. But it's all about improving and getting better each week.
We'll go to your right to Wolfgang, then Holly.
Wolfgang Munzer from German Rennsport Press Agency. You used the word qualifying trim. That means for the race you retrim it to race configuration?
Yeah, so Fridays, certain teams will have a certain schedule. Some will start off in qualifying trim, and you have to really change your whole race car for qualifying trim, whether that's the balance under the car or aero side. You tape off the whole front grille to get more downforce. So that is qualifying trim, but some teams will start in race trim to try to get a feel of how their race setup is for Sunday and try to get a little bit of head start on Saturday. And we've been doing that a lot this year. We used to start in Q trim on Fridays, and I felt like the information on starting off Saturday in race trim we would be behind on that. So I know there are a handful of teams start off in qualifying trim today, but most of them are race trim stuff, and that's been benefiting us a lot on Fridays, is starting in race trim and then swapping over. And then you can think about what improvements you need to make to your car before Saturday. And while we've been lucky to do that because we've had speed and qualifying trims, we really don't have to change the whole race car if we only get 1 or 2 runs in. So that's really helped.
We'll go to Holly and then Lee.
NASCAR.com. I wanted to ask you about early season being right up there with you, Kyle Larson, Chase. You guys are right up in the points, up top in the points standings. You're doing well right off the bat. There was no easing in or grooving into how well you guys would do this season. Could you just talk about the fast start for all 3 of you, in particular yourself?
Yeah, it's been a good start for our team for sure. We're really early still, and there's a long ways to go, but it's been pretty neat to start off on the right foot and then build off of that. Like I said, you never want to start behind and then you're kind of panicking, but it's been nice to have some good runs early. And yeah, like you said, Larson and Chase, they've been a little bit better than us starting off this year, with Larson leading the points, and I think Chase is 2nd or 3rd right now. So, while we want to beat those guys, it's cool to see some younger drivers running very well. But I feel like while we kind of started really hot out of the gate, at least our team is just confident level, being a little bit more confident from last year, and you get a full season under your belt, and you kind of step back in the off season, and you kind of can pick out points you want to improve on, and you make a list, and you go to work really hard in the off season to try to improve on those certain areas, whether it's driving style for the driver, or communication between the teams, or personnel. So, and I think we've hit on a lot of those goals that we had. While we're still getting better and better, but it's nice to have a good start right away. So, like I said, hopefully we can keep getting better and just keep momentum rolling. That's all you can ask for.
We're going to go to Lee, and then we're going to come right up front.
You've been bit by some bad luck in the course of races. Have you all discussed about execution and what you need to do to try to find some of the consistency that has been missing, with the execution of the races?
Yeah. While we've had fast cars every week, I feel like there's been some miscues that have held us back a lot. Like at Atlanta, we had some loose wheel issues, and last week at Phoenix, we had a pretty good car, and then we had a track bar adjuster brake, and that's an obstacle you have to overcome. And I felt like we were overcoming it, and then the driver sped on pit road 50 to go. And so when you have issues like that, it's important not to multiply them with further troubles like I did. It's all about minimizing mistakes and maximizing opportunities, and I definitely maximized the mistakes for us last week, and I put us in a bad spot. So we'll have to tone back on that, and I think that'll get us more consistent. If we do have a problem, we can overcome it. It's all about trying to overcome that and not making it worse, because then it just goes downhill from there. So I think we have a lot better grasp on that this year than we had last year. So hopefully we can just keep improving on that and getting that better.
We're going to come right up front here and then go to Brant. Then I'm going to hand it over to David Talley.
Ryan, K Presto Cars and Competition. This is a little more of a technical question. You came off a road course at Phoenix, now you're in a wide oval here. How much change in the caster camber and toe in the car is made between those two types of racing?
Yeah, really the whole underbody of the car is different. At Phoenix, it's a little bit more of a shorter racetrack. The braking is really heavy, so we run a lot bigger brakes there. And then that kind of comes into the cooling aspect of it as well. Here at Fontana, it being so big, 2-mile racetrack, you don't really use the brakes. So the whole front of your car is blocked off, and you run really small brakes, and that helps performance of the car. And the caster camber, all the front geometry is a lot different. And that goes from size of the track to banking to complete downforce and shocks and springs. It's a whole another level that I honestly don't have a huge grasp on. A little bit. Everything is different going from track to track. Now, we might have similarities from, we go to Texas in 3 weeks, and you have a lot more similarities from Fontana to Texas, just because it's 1.5 miles and your loads are fairly similar. But loads on the cars are a lot different from here to last week, and that forces you to change everything just to maximize your performance.
And how are you enjoying your affiliation with these young students?
Well, it's been nice. I have just met them, or about to meet them, so I'm excited to be here. It's been nice to. We made this. I was out here for a media tour December, and it was nice to become a part of it. So I'm looking forward, and this is what we need is kids interested in the racing aspect of it in the sport, and it's nice to see their interest levels in it. And that's what we need. We need to grow to a younger generation, and it's nice to experience it firsthand, for sure.
We're going to go to Brant, and then I'm going to have David come up.
Brant James, USA Today Sports. Junior was in earlier, and he said, you guys are friends and were before and continue to be, and everything is past with the radio chatter. But what's that moment like on Twitter or wherever where you realize that a whole bunch of people are suddenly really bummed out with you because you had, just sort of a back and
Wow,
forth?
I thought we were going to go a whole conference without getting that, and we met the quota, so that was good. I was looking forward to it, talking about it. But yeah, him and I talked after the race, and we're good friends and neighbors, and he owns the land that I live on, so strategically that might not have been the best part for me to do that to him last week, but we're good. He's a great guy, a good friend of mine, and yeah, I didn't get on Twitter for a long time, so I got on it Sunday after the race, and was hated widely by a lot of fans. And that was, I've never had that before, so that was something a little bit different. So I really didn't get on social media for a few days, and none of that really bothers me. But know what other people think, as long as Dale and I are good, and we are. So don't tell Amy this, but I got her flowers already, so that was good. I have to put them at the bus. I forgot them today. They're in my room. Yeah, the social media side is good for the sport. It's really good for what we do and giving fans insight of what our daily lives are throughout the race. But sometimes it's a burden, and that just happened to be one of them. But you get over it, people forget, and Dale and I are good, like I said. So hopefully that blows over for sure. So I'm excited for Sunday. How many boos I'm going to get? I'm pumped for that. I haven't been booed before, so I'm excited. Yeah, for something new.
All right. While we're waiting for Lefty to arrive, thank you, NASCAR, for letting us take up 15 minutes of your time. Thank you, Ryan, for letting us take up 15 minutes of yours. It'll be a quick 15 and a fun 15, I hope, for everybody. We want to get up here and talk a little bit about our Lefty's Kids Club. For those of you who don't know about Lefty, we pride ourselves here at Auto Club Speedway in kind of being on the cutting edge of youth initiatives within the industry. Our Lefty's Kids Club has over 156,000 kids registered in the program, over 240 schools, and 150,000 kids from 4 counties took part in our Lefty's Reading Challenge this year. But as any club, Lefty's Kids Club needs a leader. And although the efforts of Dave Allen, our track president, Josh Avila, our Senior Director of Consumer Marketing, and Heather Perrin, our Youth Marketing Account Executive, are admirable, it's not enough, and there's a lot to be desired. So today, Lefty is proud to announce that Ryan Blaney has been named Lefty's Kids Club President for 2017.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Does he talk?
Lefty, Are you ready to give us a little, just a little hint of what Ryan might be doing? He's a man of a few words.
Hey. I feel like I'm in a Cars movie.
So what we're going to do is, if you notice up front that you were going to be introduced to, we have some students who are here as part of the Shell Fuel for Success program, and they're also participants in this year's Lefties Reading Challenge. Smith Elementary from nearby Bloomington. They have a couple questions for you, and then we'll open it up to the floor for our NASCAR media.
Perfect.
Who's first? Do you have a mic?
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Melanie Nunez from Smith Elementary, and my first question is, what educational skills am I learning now in school can be applied to professional racing?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things I feel like that racing is about now, it's not only about driving a race car as fast as you can and being on the edge of control. It's a lot about speaking with whether you're in the media center, taking questions from news outlets, to speaking with sponsors who get our race cars on the racetrack, and even communication side with our team to try to make our race cars go faster. That's something really big I took away from all my years in school is trying to be, and I am still working at it, as you can tell, of not being as nervous in front of crowds. And I felt like that a program at my school helped, you know, whether it was English class, going up and giving speeches in front of the whole classroom. I couldn't even do that in middle school and high school. I get too nervous. And then as I got to do this a lot more, I thought back and realized how much that actually helped me, trying to overcome those nerves in front of big crowds like this. So I feel like that's one of the biggest things I took away from the school system for the racing side of it.
And my second question is, what track do you feel you have the best chance of winning at, and why?
You know, I feel like our team is capable of winning every week, to be honest with you. How we're performing right now, I feel like if we just put ourselves in position and a couple things go our way, we can end up winning one of these races. I think we have the speed to do it. It's just all about a big team effort. This is what this sport is everybody working together as a team. That's what most sports are, and that's really what life is in general. And whatever career job you have is working with your team and communicating well. So I feel like we have a great shot to win this weekend or a month from now, no matter what track it is. It's just all about putting pieces together.
My name is Giovanni Casala, and my question is, what is the best part of your job and the most difficult part of your job?
That's a good question. Well, the best part of my job, not only we get to drive race cars, that's a given. You know, we get to do what very few people can do is, you know, we are encouraged to go as fast as we can in a car, and everywhere else it's frowned upon. But I think one of the best things is traveling. We get to travel all over the United States, get to go to a lot of different cities, a lot of different regions, from out here to the West Coast to, you know, Miami, Florida, to Dover, Delaware, to North Carolina, and anywhere in between. That, to me, that's one of the coolest parts, and you see different cultures and regions, and you see some great things and places, and meet really neat people along the way. So I feel like that's one of the best things about this job. The hardest part is trying to beat 39 other race cars and drivers. That's the toughest thing. You know, like any other sport of football or basketball, you're just trying to beat another team, you know, of 5 players. There's more than that, but on the court at that time, to where here it's completely different. We have to deal with a lot more other drivers, and that makes it pretty tough. So the preparation work the week of, the preparation and the dedication during practice and throughout the weekend and throughout the race is very tough, trying to make your car go faster than everybody else, and then trying to drive better than everybody else. These are really good race car drivers over here, and it's tough to be the best one that weekend. So I would say that's definitely one of the, if not the hardest thing about this sport.
Thanks for the question, kids. Any other questions for Ryan while he's here?
Thanks.
Ryan, your first Your first responsibility as president of Kids Club is to read during driver's reading time tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the Lefties Fun Zone. Thoughts on that?
I think is that Sunday?
Sunday,
I think
I'm
it's
sorry,
Sunday. I was about to say I'll be 30 minutes into practice tomorrow, but I'm excited to do it. I've never done that before, so it'll be a neat new experience for me. So yeah, I'm pumped to see what I have to read. I don't even know what I'm reading yet, so it's a surprise.
It will be a surprise.
What we have to read. So, do you guys pick out what I read? Do the kids pick out what I have to read? No, I think you guys should. I think y'all should do that. Pick out a random book, and your all's favorite book, and I'll read it to you.
There you go. We have one question from Bob over here, Bob Pockers.
Speaking of kind of favorite books and fans, how in the world did you meet Daisy Ridley?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, like, were you nervous? Were you able to talk? Were you tongue-tied? Take
Yeah.
us through that.
Yeah. So the best part of my week in LA was I went to the Lakers game, and they were facing the Clippers, and Darrell Wallace and I went, and NASCAR got us all situated, and there were great seats. And Daisy Ridley, for those of you who don't know, she plays Rey in the new Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and for the layman out there who doesn't know what Star Wars is, but she went walking by, and I freaked out. And Darryl doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know Star Wars. He was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "That was Daisy Ridley, Rey in The Force Awakens." And she goes walking away, and I didn't think we'd ever see her again. So we leave midway through the fourth quarter. Wasn't a great game. Clippers were beating them pretty bad, and we have to walk through like the players' tunnel to some club to get to our car. And guess who just is happening to walk through the tunnel the opposite way as we're walking out is Daisy. And I was like, "This is fate. This is destiny." And so I walked by, and I said, "I hate to do this, but I hate to be this guy, but can I get a picture, please?" And she was very nice. She stood there for a second and took a picture with me, and we didn't really talk that much. I didn't know what to say. Number one, I was just trying not to sweat profusely and make a fool out of myself. But yeah, that was definitely a really cool part. I've always wanted to meet her, and I think she did a great job in the new Star Wars. So that was cool. That was like my starstruck moment. I don't get starstruck very often, and that was one of them. So it was nice. It was great.
Chris?
Did you at least introduce yourself to her? Did she know who you were?
No, she doesn't care who I am. No, she had no idea. She, what am I going to say?
You just said I have a lightsaber. I mean, you have a lightsaber
I'm sure
collection. You have a lightsaber collection. I mean, I just know.
I'm sure
how-
she meets thousands of people who say that to her, and I would just be one of the 1,000. I should have asked her out. Yeah, I bet she gets that millions of times too throughout the year. Yeah, but she doesn't know. I want to be like, "Hey, I'm free to drive race cars." You can't do that. That's not cool. So I just said, "Hey," I didn't even tell her my name. It's gone forever.
You didn't even tell her your name?
Nope, I'll never see her again. You know it's going to be on social media, so she'll see it now. I doubt it. No, she doesn't have social media. I know. I've checked. No Instagram, Twitter, nothing, man. No way of contacting. That was my one chance, and I blew it. Her friends do? We'll find out. We'll find out.
Any other questions? Ryan, thank you very much. Lefty, congratulations on choosing a great president to represent your club. I'm sure Sunday will not be as pressurized as this or your recent meet and greet. So thanks for coming in, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Auto Club Speedway. We are now joined by our most recent Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series winner with Ryan Newman, who won last week at Phoenix. Ryan, I'm sure it's been an exciting week for you. Just talk a little bit about your week and looking into Auto Club this weekend.
Yeah, I think obviously excited about the victory on Sunday, and then getting a chance to go to the shop on Monday after very little sleep to congratulate all the guys that were a part of it, guys and girls for that matter, and just to see everybody. And you know, it's been I don't want to say a long time coming, because I think that when you say that, you kind of expect it, but it had been a while since I had been to Victory Lane in an RCR for Richard for 3 years of a drought. So it was something that we were fighting very hard for, and was very rewarding, and that's probably the better way of saying it. So just got to do some things around the farm and hang out with the kids and do some things like that as a normal person, I guess you could say. But outside of that, just being at the shop on Monday was a lot of fun.
All right, we'll go ahead and open for questions for Ryan. If you have one, just raise your hand and state your name and affiliation, and we'll start with Holly.
Ladies first.
That's right. Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. I spoke with Luke a little bit earlier this week, and he was talking about what a great thing this is to go on and have the victory, and it's something obviously you haven't had. You've had to fight for points position or do all of that. Could you just talk about what the difference is, maybe the approach, maybe how this might change how you kind of go forward this season because you have the victory and you've assured yourself that spot versus having to fight in on a points type of thing?
Yeah, I think the point system and the point structure reminds me of back in the Winston Cup days where it was you race as hard as you can in every race, and the cumulative effort, whether you win or not, you're still expected to be a winner at some point to be a champion. It usually just works out that way. But that cumulative effort goes into the entire season, not a given race, and then you can change your strategies on different races or be a little more gambling on certain calls than others. So I don't see it changing the way you would have expected it to have changed the last 3 years, is probably the best way to say it. I think it's really all about going out and figuring out how to do it again and again and again, and eventually building up that bye, so to speak, in each round of one race compared to somebody who maybe isn't as victorious as another team. That's, I think, the ultimate goal, to have your best shot at a one-race championship in Homestead.
All right, Wolfgang, go ahead.
Ryan, last week at Phoenix after the race, you seems to be very pretty exhausted under these extreme heat conditions. How you personally prepare for this kind of races under this extreme heat?
You talking about in Phoenix or here this weekend?
No,
just
kind of
anytime.
Under
It
extreme
it surprised me in Phoenix how hot I got inside the race car. I knew it was going to be hot, and my rental car said 97 degrees on the way to the airport, so it was probably hotter than I expected it to be, both in ambient conditions as well as what it was inside the race car. So really the worst I've ever been burned inside of a car. I got a burn on my pinky toe, which doesn't sound like it's that much. It's just kind of awkward. And my left heel has about a golf ball on the back of it. That hurts quite a bit. And then the right hamstring, or ham, basically, whatever you want to call it, the backside where my seat was, it's got a little family of blisters that live on it now. And it's just been kind of painful, but it's all right. I mean, it's not. I'm not trying to get sympathy. I'm just saying that I was really hot in a race car, and to give you an idea of why I was as exhausted as I was, when your skin blisters up because you're cooked. I never felt like I was dehydrated, and I never cramped up. Never had any problems like that. I just literally felt like I was in an oven and I needed to get out.
All right.
K Presto Cars in Competition. Ryan, what's the difference, if any, between the handling of the cars this season and last season?
I think, it seems like every year we've taken some downforce off, and it gets better and better. And I guess the balance of that, or maybe the adjustment to that, is the teams get better and better. So we get a percentage of that back each and every year, just refining what we do with the race car from an engineering standpoint. So I think we're getting back to where we need to be with a proportion of horsepower and downforce and drag and braking and acceleration, for that matter, and getting to a point where the cars are more fun to drive because they're on top of the racetrack a little bit more. I think we'll see that even more so this weekend. This racetrack always seems to provide good 3 and sometimes 4 or 5 wide racing, but I think just seeing cars slide around will be a lot more fun this week than usual.
So is the change in the cars affecting the performance of the tires more?
That's a very good question, because the tires are always a big part of their performance because they're the only thing touching the racetrack. The less downforce you have, the more you have to really kind of adjust your air pressure to compensate for it. So the less downforce you have, the less air you need to hold that race car up, because the body's not pushing the wheels down into the racetrack as hard. So it's just a balance and an adjustment. I wouldn't say that it's much different, but you kind of do have to adjust your air pressures, which anytime we go lower kind of makes Goodyear cringe, but we all kind of fight that knife edge of too low and safe enough.
All right, go ahead.
Kathy Brown, pitting outside the box. Congratulations on your win last weekend.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, and I wasn't at the race this weekend, so I wanted to ask you it. Categorically, when you don't come in for tires and you're sitting duck on the restart, and you weren't, do you attribute your past racing experience before you came into, you know, the Cup Series to help get you through on that restart and propel you to that win?
It all depends on the racetrack to declare the sitting duck. At a place like Fontana here, absolutely. I think you would be a sitting duck if you did the proportional laps and the way the tires fall off here. You would never want to stay out here ever. And under no circumstances. You would be 20th by the time you got to the overtime line. But at Phoenix, the tires were a little bit more durable, held on better. It was the first time we had our car in clean air. And secondly, our car was better on longer runs. So it was to our advantage to stay out. Some guys, for instance, the 22, who ended up blowing the tire, but his car was better on short runs. I mean, he was probably one of the best cars on short runs. So it would have been a no-brainer for him to come in and get tires. But it just worked in our favor. And sometimes you have that and sometimes you don't.
All right, Reed, go ahead.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Ryan, what's your perspective on the use of plates at Indy on the Xfinity cars with the prospect that it may lead to plates on the Cup cars?
I think there's a balance there of speed and safety. I don't know what their sim results are or what their testing has been to validate what needs to be done, but I believe it's all based off of safety. And, you know, Indianapolis is unique in the fact that the corners really are kind of 90 degrees. You never really hit at 90 degrees, but you're hitting more so at a sharper angle than you are at a place like Fontana or Michigan or even a mile-and-a-half racetrack. So keeping that in check, I think, is most important. But given the driver's throttle response and acceleration and the ability to pass people is equally important. And we've seen some racing that gets pretty spread out at Indianapolis that I don't know if a restrictor plate would make that the same or worse or even better for that matter. So, but to me, I think the restrictor plate, or at least the term restrictor plate, usually is more about safety and top speeds than it is anything else.
Ryan Rents-Brown, Race Chaser Online. Going back last week after the win, what did that do to your confidence, especially being so close as so many times as you were to winning a race? What does that do now going forward for the rest of the season and onwards?
Well, I mean, confidence is kind of key in our sport, and I've always said confidence overpowers ability. If you don't have the confidence, then it doesn't matter your ability, and I think that it definitely is big. I guess there's probably a few people that would argue that I don't need any more confidence, but there is a time after 127 races where confidence, at least in getting to victory lane, is very important and makes a big difference on your ability to win a championship. So ultimately, that's our long-term goal, and you know, hopefully it was at the same time the first of a few that will lead to a championship in Homestead.
All right, we'll take our final question from Bob. Go ahead.
Bob Packers, ESPN, had a couple. The first was, how does it feel just to know you're most likely in the playoffs compared to the past few years where you've had to point your way in?
Yeah, that's the biggest relief, I would say. Aside from getting the victory after 127 races, was being locked into a less stressful Richmond. It seems like we always, no matter what, have been on the bubble, either on the good side or the bad side for the last 6 or 7 years, and trying to fight our way in Richmond. So not being that guy will be fun, but at the same time, we're still there to win the race, and we've been close several times.
And with NASCAR taking no action after Kyle Busch a couple weeks ago, after Austin Dillon last week, do you feel like, has it opened up things for drivers? Do you know kind of what you can and can't do, or do you never want to put it in NASCAR's hands?
I don't think anybody wants to put making that judgment call in NASCAR's hands, but unfortunately with our sport, you have, you know, frustrations and therefore temptations, and you have to do what's best, and what's best is not always the same in everybody's eyes, because, you know, being aggressive and whether it's with your race car or your right hands doesn't always lead to the answer, but it sometimes gets your point across, and sometimes that's what's needed. So I don't know that it gives us an answer of what we can or can't do, but I think at some point we'll eventually find a limit of what you, so to speak, can get away with.
I believe that's all the questions. Ryan, thank you for coming in today, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.